Now, for the Green Bay Packers, they also have concerns, but in a different way. They're outside of, as opposed to Baltimore, excuse me, as opposed to Baltimore, Green Bay's issues are a little more clear because this is a team that just isn't entirely that good. It's I know that's crazy to say considering it's an Aaron Rodgers quarterback team and they just don't look like a good football team right now. They don't look well coached. They look unprepared at times. Uh, Defensively, I know they were able to hold their own for the most part this week on defense, but up to this point, they've sort of been really not bad on defense, but underperforming, especially considering the level of talent they have on that defense. And offensively, there was a soundbite I heard from Aaron Rodgers himself that was very alarming 6 weeks into the season. I think this was actually from a press conference last week, I believe, after the loss to London, in London to the New York Giants, where he was talking about potentially simplifying the offense. And he made it clear to not like call out Matt LaFleur, the head coach. He's like, I have all the respect in the world for Matt. Uh, when he was talking about simplifying the offense, it was clear he was referring to his teammates. He was referring to the receivers and his blatant lack of confidence in them. Now, you have Alan Lazard, who is good at times. You have Romeo Dobbs, who might be something, but let him take a while to develop a little more chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He might be something. You had Randall Cobb, who looks like he's going to be out for the year and maybe for his career, because a veteran with an injury like that's probably not going to be able to play ever again. And then you had Christian Watson, their second round pick, who has been dealing with hamstring issues. And even when he was healthy and he was playing, he wasn't that good. So this team offensively looks lost. And when I hear Aaron Rodgers, like 5, 6 games into the season, saying we need to simplify things, it's like, because I've said before, especially considering the regular season's longer now by one game, that usually teams take the first month of the season to sort of, as kind of like an extended preseason, sort of like work some things out, see what works, see what doesn't, and then form their identity as a team after week 5, and then that's what they're probably most likely going to be for the rest of the year. It takes them usually the first 4 games to figure out their identity, and that's where you see teams sort of like taking things more simple. After 5, 6 games, the fact that Aaron Rodgers is saying we need to simplify things on the offense, now's the time to start getting away from the simple stuff. You would assume that, okay, the first 4 games, like I just said, is when you're already running simple things. Are you saying the simple things are even the simple things in the offense is too complicated for the guys you have playing for that you're playing with? That's alarming. That's very alarming. And especially considering that this team's schedule, and I took a look at this team's schedule from this point on, it's brutal. Let me pull that up real quick and let me read this out to you, because it's not going to get any easier for this team. Hold on one second. So, next week they play the Commanders, which that should be a get-right game for them. That should be a nice little reset button game for them. But after that, they then have to go to Buffalo to play the Bills on Sunday night. Then they have to go back on the road to play the Lions in Detroit, which, say what you will about Detroit and their defense, offensively they're still really good. And they're on a bye week. They were on a bye week this past week, and hopefully that takes some time to get things right. But that's not going to be a gimme game for them. Then they go back home, but to play the Cowboys, this offense has been struggling all year up to this point. Now they have to go play the Cowboys in week 10. And they play the Titans on Thursday night. Then they go to Philadelphia on another Sunday night game. Then they play the Bears on a Monday night game. Then they play the Rams at home, Dolphins in Miami, Vikings at home, and then Lions at home to end the year. This is a rough schedule. This is a terrible. This is going to be a rough stretch for this team. And I've heard people say that, oh, the Packers are terrible. They're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not going to go that far just yet. But looking at how this team has been, how they performed against the Jets, which, like I said, the Jets have been looked really good this year since Zach Wilson has come back. But still, it's not going to get any easier from here. I just read it out to you. This is not going to get easier. It's actually, in fact, going to get harder as the year goes on. Because they're playing against a lot of really, really good football teams, a lot of which have playoff and potentially championship aspirations. And this team, they want to compete. It's a transition year. We knew coming into this year that it was going to be a transition year. No Davante Adams, no Zadarius Smith, a lot of key pieces leaving, a lot of change happening. It was clearly a transition year. Everyone knew that except for the Packers front office, because this team, this is how you know that this team didn't think that they were going to be in a transition year, because in the draft, receiver was their clear need. They traded away Davante Adams. Receiver was their clear and obvious need. And they had 2 first-round picks, and they traded up to the top of the second. So they basically, to the 34th pick. So they basically had 3 first-round picks, essentially. And they spend those picks on a linebacker who was a 3rd-round linebacker at the 22nd overall spot, who's been terrible. A backup defensive tackle who was a good pick at the time, but he has not played really at all this year. And Christian Watson, who has had injury issues, and when he's been playing has been terrible. So this team, based on that draft, clearly does not think that they're in a transition or a rebuilding year, even though everyone else and their mother, even Rodgers himself, knows it. So I feel like this could have been so avoidable. Like, I feel like if this team actually built their team properly, if they still wanted to compete, then they should have built their team properly before the season, because it's showing what happens when you don't take it seriously, you don't take a transition year seriously, but you still want to compete, and you get shit shows like this. So it's alarming. I'm not going to go as far as say they're going to miss the playoffs entirely. But when you look at how they've been all season, you look at that schedule, it's going to be tough sledding. And I don't know how this is going to work out, man. I have no idea how the season's going to play out for the Packers, because they have a lot of things to work out. That's all I'm going to say on that.